This podcast is brought to you by you, the listener. And if you would like to help out the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast, you can do it over at our website, aaapodcast.com/join, where you can sign up. You can also sign up on Patreon, and by doing so, you'll get all of our additional podcast content just for you. And you'll be helping out the show by helping us keep the lights on. So it's a little bit of one of those nice little symbiotic relationships, and we want to keep bringing you all kinds of anime addicting content. So head over to our website, aaapodcast.com/join our Patreon to help out the show. And now, let's get it started.
You're listening to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Take your anime addiction to the next level at aaapodcast.com/join. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Welcome guys to episode 549 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast, where we are dedicated to making your anime addiction worse.
Make it worse, baby!
Hello, I am Mandy. I am one host of three today, and I am joined by Mason. Hello, welcome.
Randy's like, which host should I introduce first?
I was thinking.
It's like fondling his pink monster can. Mason, how's it going? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
I just looked over and I just chose to go left or right, sorry. Mitz, would you like to tell us about your energy drink?
Yes, I'm opening it right now. I bought 48 cans of Monster on Amazon. Baby! 24 orange, 24 pink, and we are saving money every day while
How
we
much
can.
is that? Just
It's
curious.
like $33 for 24 cans. So it's at the store it's like, well, at the store they're like $2.20 a piece. So I'm getting them I'm saving like 65 cents a day, baby. It adds up. It adds up. How's everybody doing? I am glad to be here. I love you all. Woo! I'm amped. I had a good weekend.
I could tell. Those energy drinks have an effect on you for sure.
I haven't even had it yet, Mandy. I just cracked it 2 seconds ago.
Oh shit, we're in trouble.
It's all natural.
So if you would like to follow us on Twitch, so you can get updates on when we are streaming, we are live every Sunday at 5 p.m. EST. And you can also follow us on all of our other social media accounts, Facebook, Discord. You can go to aaapodcast.com, find a button there to our Discord, and see all the kind of stuff that we have going on. But today, what we are going to be talking about, we have our Bring Your Own Topic thing where all the hosts have brought something to the table to discuss random stuff. I don't know. We'll see what comes up. But also is our last round of fall 2020 impressions. So we'll be doing impressions on. Oh man, we have the Japanese names for all of these.
Good luck.
Changing them, and then I did it.
Oh man, thanks. Moriarty. That's like the Sherlock-ish one.
Moriarty the Patriot.
Okay, thank you. Higurashi. That
Oh,
one
come
I
on.
know.
Oh, come on, Mandy. You can do it.
Higurashi no Naku Koro ni go.
Yeah.
And there's also Adachi to Shimamura. Ochikobore Fruit Tart.
Nice.
That's a weird name.
Fruit Tart.
It's like Dropout Idol Fruit Tart.
Yeah, that just
sorry.
that just reeks of moe. Anything with Fruit Tart in the title, it just reeks of moe, does it not? I mean, come on. I'm already like, ooh.
I don't know, maybe it could be a cooking show, a baking show.
What could be?
And also Kamisama ni Natta Hi, which is God.
The day I became a god.
The day I became a god.
But it sounds so good. Kamisama ni Natta Hi. Ooh, it just rolls off the tongue so well.
So that is coming up later. Anything you guys want to talk about before we bring up some news things? I have something to talk about.
Well, why don't you?
For news. All right, let's do it.
Oh, 大ニュースです。It's time for big news of the week.
So my news topic that I have is KyoAni won the Women in Animation Diversity Award. And I love KyoAni, so that's exciting. But they won the award on October 28th as part of the Spark Animation 2020 event. And the WIA Board of Directors honored KyoAni for creating an inclusive studio based on gender-balanced workplace, encouraging women to enter the animation industry, and for having a model that gives women ongoing security.
Oh.
So that's exciting. And also, they are currently accepting applications for animators, managers, and system engineers, which I think we've mentioned before, but I don't know. If you want to move to Japan, work with KyoAni, there you go.
I don't think we've ever had a news article or story about KyoAni being less than like a stellar place. Like, especially in an industry that is like overwrought with like turmoil and bad practices. Like, there's like American bad practices, and then there's like Japanese like overworking bad practices, and KyoAni like seems to like excel despite all of that.
I think it shows in their work too. Like, they always have such a like I would say they're what's the word I'm looking for? Not man, I don't know what I'm trying to think of. They're I don't know, everything they bring out is great. The word that I was trying to think of just escaped my mind.
They make good stuff, and you should feel good watching it. That's a good relationship to have.
I was trying to say reliable, but that's not the word I was looking for.
Consistently beautiful.
Consistent. That's what I was thinking.
There you go.
So sorry. My brain froze because I was looking at chat, and I should never do that.
Chat, go away, please, just for like 5 seconds.
No, it's not their fault. I just got distracted by reading what they're writing.
Well, you know, I think, as you said, in an industry that always has seemingly bad news out about how they treat employees and pay employees and the general mental health of the employees. I saw a poll today that was sort of the opposite in terms of happy. So it's nice to see, you know, at least some things being done in a good way in the anime industry. So that's it's good to see. So but of course it would be KyoAni that would be the one driving that, wouldn't it? So
they're pretty amazing.
Yeah. So on a less happy note, I wrote down a piece of news here, and Sega is selling off pretty much all of its arcade business in Japan. So people that have gone to Japan know that in a lot of different areas, particularly like Akihabara, Ikebukuro, and some other places, there's giant arcade buildings. They're like 5, 6, 7 stories usually, full of like just a variety of all kinds of fun stuff. The first floor always has like the claw machine games. You can just kind of go, oh my god, I love Pikachu, and you go in and you try to win, then you end up losing, and then you leave and you keep walking or whatever.
But was that the arcade where I won, where we all worked together to win Rohan? The Rohan figure that I have?
I mean, there's like a few types of arcades in Japan. There's the Sega arcades, then there's ones that are owned by like smaller like branched off companies that aren't quite as prolific as Sega, but so I'm not really sure, but they're all the same, Mandy. Like, they all have the same shit.
Chibi Rob in the chat said yes, it was.
So I guess coronavirus has just ravaged this industry in Japan. I think it's not that shocking. Like the Round One, which is a Japanese arcade that I frequent in Denver, it was like the last thing to open. Period. Like, everything else was open first. Like, the bars were open, the movie theater was open, everything was open. So it's not that shocking that these buildings that are like 6 floors, they probably have like a ton of rent, and you know, it's just tremendous expenses, and they probably haven't really been open. So Sega's selling off they've sold off 85% of their arcade business in Japan to a company called Genda, which is another amusement machine company. So they had 193 arcades across Japan, but as I said, they've been having extraordinary losses due to COVID. So it's just a little disappointing. Like, that's the bad news, right? Because these arcades are one of my favorite things to do in Japan. They've got the metal games, they've got the rhythm games, you know, all the fun shit that like foreigners, like I love. I feel like all the foreigners love it, but I love it because it's so much fun. But
it's because we don't really get to see that here. Like, I don't know any arcades around me at all. I guess it depends on where you live, but yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, arcades have died in the States. Like, they're just not here. Like, they're just not around. So, I mean, come on. Like, our living rooms are the most ultimate arcade ever now. Like, the gaming has become so insanely great. But the good news is that supposedly the arcades aren't going to vanish. Sega told Famitsu in an interview that they will still be able to visit the arcades and that they're still going to make arcade games for arcades in general. And Genda, the company they're selling them to, said they aim to maintain Sega's branding. So it's almost like they sold the arcades, but they're under new management, if that makes sense. Like it's like you may not notice much of a change immediately. They're just kind of like changing hands. Like maybe Genda had more money or something, and they could float the business longer, and Sega had needed to get out. I don't really know the specifics, but it's just disappointing to see such a fun part of traveling to Japan be at risk. So it would be a shame if Genda was like, oh, we can't handle it either, 6 months from now, and then they just shut them all down. So I would hate that. Would really suck. So I'm hoping for the best, but I guess it's good news because I think people were thinking that like Sega was just shutting them all down, and that's not happening. So they're not shutting them down. So don't despair. Don't despair.
I can't see them getting rid of the Sega like labels on the buildings either. Like I feel like that's such a touchstone of like
Ikebukuro.
Yeah, and a bunch of other locations as well. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's the one I think we visited the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went there quite a few times.
I mean, like, I'm a total metal game degenerate. Like, I'm the guy that'll sit there and play these metal games for 4 hours with, like, just multiple cans of coffee and just breathe in secondhand cigarette smoke for hours. So...
Oh, yeah, that was so wild. We went upstairs and, like, all these old men sitting around smoking. It was just so different from, like, over here.
It's such a crazy thing, too, because you can't win anything. Like, at the round one in Denver...
I know!
It's like if you play the metal games, which are not as good, but if you play them, you can at least go to the gift shop and buy like some badass stuffed animals and stuff. Mm-hmm. In Japan, you can't win shit. Like it's just like you're there just to fuck around. So
yeah, they had that big like racetrack, the horse racetrack, where you bet on them, and it was just crazy. You're like, you don't get anything out of this.
Bragging rights.
Yeah, I guess it's fun though. I don't know.
All hail our pachinko overlords.
Oh my god. Pachinko, you can take the balls down the street and trade them in for gold, I think. Like little bars of gold. So I think that you can actually get something. But
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but all the rest of these, you're just there to waste your time. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, that's about all I had. So it's bad news and good news. So, the arcades are booming. Like as soon as this pandemic slows down, they'll probably be perked up again. Kind of like plants need water, people, and arcades need people. So,
I really wish we had an arcade around me. I mean, the only arcade that I can even think of hardly gets any, like, any business at all. Like, it's mostly a bar, and there are, like, some games in there, but, yeah, it's really sad.
We got a Top Shot golf in the corner. That's an arcade.
Yeah, we have House of the Dead too.
hey, that's a great game.
Don't
let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, unfortunately,
we have a DDR machine that never works.
I just checked, and unfortunately, Mandy, there aren't any round ones in. Well, there are two round ones in Ohio, so maybe you should look up and see where they are. So maybe one of them is within driving distance. So.
Yeah, we can do a AAA meetup there in a while after everything settles down.
It's fun as shit. There's this new rhythm game called Waka that's like brand new in Japan, and I've been playing the hell out of it, and it is fucking awesome.
That better be like a crossover with Pac-Man.
Waka.
Waka 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 waka.
Or Fozzie from whatever the hell that is from the Muppets. All right, that's about it, guys. So that's it from me. I'll clam up.
Nice. I didn't see any news this week that was all that great, so I think we should just move on. Because it's more just random topics anyway.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, we have our bring your own topic thing that we do. We try to usually do them once a month, but it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to talk about, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes our own topics just turn into an episode by itself.
Yeah. So why don't we start with myths, because this one was left off of the last round. So
yeah, so it's funny, like these bring your own topics, it's always like, wow, everyone always comes up with such amazing ideas that I'm always like, this should really be its own episode. But we'll see if that happens again today. So like a month and a half ago we were doing this, and I said My idea was like your perfect anime cafe. Like there's all kinds of cafes in Japan for just about everything. If it has any level of popularity in Japan, it has a cafe. There's Dragon Quest has a cafe, Pokemon has cafes, friggin' Akuma has cafes, Hello Kitty, just anything really. I mean, it's just wild. So I said, well, how about something that's maybe not quite as insanely popular to the point where it has an arcade yet, and we'll come up with our own. So I love Space Brothers. So Space Brothers is like such a freaking great anime, and it's just every time I watch anything of it, it just brings a tear to my eye because it's just so good. And so I want to make a Space Brothers cafe. So I think the decor could be really cool. Like they could get like model spacesuits of astronauts and put like stars on the ceiling, and just or make the inside look like a spaceship. Like they could do cool stuff. But really the focus here is on like what the dishes are. So I know we all have an idea here. Mason has 2 ideas. And so my appetizer is going to be like Oppo's appetizer plate. So if you've seen like Space Brothers, there's the little pug that Muta has, and he's in like all the opening videos, and he's in the show from time to time. And so since he's this cute little dog and everyone loves Oppo, it's like it'd be a plate of like assorted appetizers, each themed after him. So I don't know what those would be, but like usually they make like like an omu rice that's pressed into the shape of like a dog's head. Like they'll figure out how to friggin' do it. I've seen
it'd have to be heart shaped, because doesn't Oppo have like a little heart like marking on his like butt?
He's like on his side. I think he has like a heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could be pug shaped or heart shaped. It would cover both.
Yeah. The important thing, Mason, is that it's cute. It has to be cute. Yes. Right. So whatever it is, whether it's like a Hamburg steak appetizer that's like pressed into a heart shape, or whatever, they'll figure it out. But
yeah, theme restaurants' number 1 priority is charging as much as possible.
Yeah.
Number 2 is making it look as cool as possible, and number 3 is making it taste somewhat decent.
Yeah, I mean, it all tastes pretty much the same at a lot of these places.
Have you been to lots of theme restaurants?
Yeah. I mean, I've been to a Final Fantasy one. I went to a Dragon Quest one. I've done like maid cafes a couple times, but they're like super overrated in my opinion. And
I feel like some of them, like Final Fantasy and like Gundam, like those are like established, firmly cemented cafes. Like those are there forever. And then there's lots of like temporary like pop-up theme cafes, right?
Yeah, I mean there's the cafes like the Gundam Cafe that have been there for years, and then there's ones that just come and go. Like they're almost like a limited time thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're not wrong. So
Pokemon comes back all the time.
Yeah, Pokemon's always around. Mm-hmm. I think there's a Kuroko no Basque cafe when we went.
Yeah, we went there, but it wasn't much of like a cafe where you can get food. It was just drinks.
Oh, you guys went. Okay.
That was like at the Animate store, I think, was it? Or not the store, but like the.
Oh yeah. That was in Ikebukuro. We went there.
Yeah,
and
it was
it was like on this month it's Kuroko no Basque, and on this month it's this other thing. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know they had those for Hunter x Hunter in the past as well. I've seen all the. I think they just had one actually where they showed all of like the different kind of food and stuff that you can get there. I was very jealous.
Yeah, it's pretty good
time
shit.
Our next trip around the return of the Hunter x Hunter cafe.
Anyway, so for the main course, it's like I'm calling it the Astronauts Liftoff. So it's a main course featuring any of a variety of favorite Japanese foods. So there's like curry, Hamburg plate, tonkatsu with cabbage, and no matter what you get a souvenir. It comes on a plate that's a souvenir plate that features like one of the characters. So it's like Muta, Hibito, Seirika, Kenji, like whatever. Just to encourage you to keep going back. So you get maybe it's like a different plate with each meal, so you have to try like all of the courses. And then like, after I've tried everything on the menu, I'll have every plate, So that like crazy anime fans that have like, an apartment can have their friends over and they can all eat on Space Brothers plates and feel like super nerds. And then the dessert is going to be Hibito's yay Moon pie sundae, because like because of that scene on the moon when he gets out and he jumps up and he yells "Yay!" And it's like, well, what was the profound thing that you said, Hibito, when you stepped foot on the moon? And he just yells "Yay!" It's hilarious. It's like nothing profound about it, but everyone loves it anyway. So we'll see. Space Brothers, I don't think it's that popular anymore. It's not gonna get a cafe probably. But
does Space Brothers have a dub?
Ooh, I don't know. It has a TV show and a movie, I think, or it has at least a movie, a live action one. But I'm not sure about that. It's worth watching either way. So good. So, but I want to hear more about your guys' ideas.
You want me to go next? I guess if we keep going to the right.
Yeah, keep the theme going.
I feel like we've been doing that since we started starting from the left, going to the right. But yeah, I was trying to think of something, and I know mine is like myths where it will never happen. Yeah. But you know, in fantasy world, I was thinking Silver Spoon should have a cafe or food place because
totally.
Silver Spoon is all about good food and working on a farm. So the first one, which is really sad, and I felt bad after writing it down. I was like, it should have Katsudon. Because that's what the name of the poor pig. The poor pig.
He's pork bowl. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But of course that'd be the first one. And I remember when we went to that one restaurant in Japan, they had such amazing katsudon. So I want that one specifically. What was the name of that restaurant? It was like in a mall, I think.
Was in
the one like underground when we were waiting for the train?
I think it was in Shin Kyoto.
Whatever it was, it was super good.
there's that underground mall area that is just a ton of restaurants.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where they just bring you unlimited like shredded cabbage. Yeah, those places are freaking great. They're so good.
My food item 2, I wrote down yasai itame, which is sort of like a vegetable stir fry, because I was trying to think of like not so much focusing on like big like fried foods, but like also things that had a lot of vegetables in them, because that's a big part of Silver Spoon is growing vegetables.
Farming show.
Yeah, exactly. Farming and taking care of livestock. But so I think like the kind of vegetable stir fry that I was thinking of has like cabbage and onions and carrots, green peppers. I know you can get like garlic. I think you can get pork in them, optional. But yeah, that sounds. I've never had it, but it sounds good. When I was like looking through all like the different kind of vegetable stir fries that they had, I kind of wish I got that in Japan when we were there. And of course, there is just a big ass pizza because that's like what my favorite episode of the entire show is when they make that big pizza together.
Would it be Japanese pizza or American pizza?
Well, I think they made an American one that wasn't like. Wait, isn't Japanese pizza just like okonomiyaki? Is that what they call it?
No, that's different. Okonomiyaki is like called Japanese pizza, but that's like the pancake. Like I just meant more like the way that Japanese restaurants make their attempt at American pizzas is usually like
so sad.
off. It's like I think it's usually really sweet compared to
really?
What we're used to.
We went to a pizza place there, but it didn't taste like largely different than we have.
They just use like bizarre toppings, and they don't eat a lot of dairy. Yeah, like corn
they did have
and
one
stuff
that had
like
like
that.
calamari on it and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's just bizarre. And
it was good though.
They don't really eat a lot of cheese in Japan, so like I think they're trying to figure that out. You know, I don't know.
I know at one time we were thinking about ordering one for our Airbnb, but then we were like, it's way too expensive.
Oh my god, yeah.
But the little like it was sort of like how Cece's pizza is set up, where you like go up and get your pizza and bring it back to your table. That's like the kind of place that we went to. I don't know if either of you were with us when we did it.
I was not.
I think I was with. I know I was with Kazuo at the time, and I think Enzo was there as well. I don't remember who else, but yeah, we went to that, and it didn't really taste much different than what we have here. At least I don't know.
Yeah, what is that place called? There's a bunch of those. There's, oh man.
It was in Ikebukuro.
Shakey's Pizza. It's called Shakey's Pizza, I think.
That does sound familiar.
Yeah. So.
Chibi Rob says he was with us.
So in your cafe though, because like I could see there, since the show's about making food, sort of, I could see it being like one of those fun like date night spots where you bring a person and they like teach you how to make the food. You know what I mean? What do you think? What do you think of that twist? Like maybe like on Saturday, you can like bring your honey and learn how to make a pizza.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I love those ideas. Like those are great. Those make great dates. Like anything that's like hands-on like that is always great.
Yeah, I've heard about people going on like making ramen by yourself dates. That sounds cool.
Yeah. What else? What else, Mandy?
Oh, that's all I have.
That was the end.
Yeah.
I do like a big ass pizza. Oh my god, pizza is just the friggin' best. It just is. Oh my god, pizza's like a food I will never get tired of. You can just eat pizza every day, and my body would suffer for it, but like my like desire to eat pizza will never wane. It is just it'll be as strong as ever. All right, Mason. I think you're gonna have to pick one of these. So.
Yeah. So originally I made one for Haikyuu, months ago, but then I was like, yeah, Haikyuu ones probably already exist. People don't need to care about that. So I was bored and made a JoJo themed cafe, with one dish for each.
There has to be a JoJo cafe.
There does. There absolutely. But I wanted to get really bizarre, fittingly with the dishes. So I made a dish for each part of JoJo. Some of which are a little more fitting than others. So part one, obviously, will just this is like a full course meal. So a lot of small portions. But so course one is just going to be a cup of like tomato juice or something, because it's supposed to be a cup of Joestar blood.
Tomato juice?
Yeah, something like red and liquidy that you just kind of gulp down.
Like a Bloody Mary?
I was gonna say like a Bloody Mary.
It could be. It could be. You know, if you want alcohol, it's fine, I guess.
No, he just wants to drink straight tomato juice.
Hey, some people do that. Some people have their V8.
V8, spicy V8 is not to be underestimated. It's pretty good. I like it.
It's for some people. Part two, or dish two, I should say, is the squid ink pasta. The greatest dish in all of JoJo. I love that scene. I literally have like squid ink seasoning in my kitchen right now just because of that. Do you
really? Do you use it?
Yeah.
But is it going to turn into like a spear?
No. It stays noodly, not glass piercing. Number 3 was iced tea and chocolate from the Darby fight, where they put chocolate to like melt and like with the water tension and all that. It's a great scene. Dish 4.
Hold on, did you say putting chocolate in iced tea?
No, not in the iced tea.
Oh, okay.
But it's like iced tea and there's chocolate on the side.
I was like, that sounds gross.
No. I guess, yes, thank you. I should have specified that. It's a 2-part dish. Dish number 4 is the antipasto, the caprese salad from when they go have what was it? Pearl Jam? Yeah.
And then all your skin falls off and
your teeth like fall out.
Yeah.
Dogs in the corner just like
you feel great
and come back together. Yeah, come out feeling great after number 4. Dish number 5 is a collection of figs, lamb, pudding, salad, octopus, and cheese. Just felt right. Dish number 6 is gator jerky on a bed of insects.
Ew, whoa.
I haven't seen 6, so.
6 takes place in Florida.
Sorry.
And they have to eat bugs in it, so that's why you get that. Number 7 is just a plate of mozzarella, and you have to sing the song. Or actually, no, the waiters sing the song as they bring it out to you.
Sort of like your birthday. They go,
exactly. Yeah. But everyone sings the mozzarella song, and it's amazing. And the dessert is from part 7, and it's very strictly layered in this order. So listen up. It is cut melon, then jelly, then whipped cream, then ice cream, then melon, then grancia, then champagne, then sherbet, then crunchy corn biscuit, then more melon, more jelly, more whipped cream, and then melon juice. And it's just this massive parfait.
Oh my god!
They have in part 7.
How much is that shit gonna cost?
Probably your bloodline, but
you have to be rich.
I'd say this is a nice like $180 like fine dining theme cafe. This is for the finest, the connoisseurs of the JoJo.
Yeah,
expensive tomato juice.
Guaranteed to raise your blood sugar to 182.
So I don't know. I would go to that cafe.
I would too. I mean, I might not eat anything.
It's like the whole it's like Blu-rays. You know, they're not trying to sell best product for everyone to buy. They're just trying to rack up the prices for the few people that will buy it. That's my demographic.
I don't know about just eating a whole plate of mozzarella.
How about what?
Don't love mozzarella enough. Mozzarella is like the easiest cheese to just like munch on.
If it has like oil with spices with it, you know, I can go.
I'm sure we could put some dusty horse tracks on the side for you to brush it in.
What about coffee though? Dio loves coffee.
But there's not a song about coffee. I want there to be lots of songs.
As long as I get a dinosaur to bring me a coffee, that's all I care about.
There you go. Yeah, all the waiters and waitresses could be dressed up as the different...
in those balloon dinosaur costumes.
Exactly. Their tails are swiping at people in the back. Oh my goodness, I love this idea even more.
Remember that one time we had the theme of like what kind of anime theme park you would want to make, and I made a big JoJo one. It was ridiculous. JoJo
is a great piece of media, not so much for what it is, but it inspires creativity like outside of it. Like anyone who ever has seen that show is like, oh, like you get an infusion of creativity into your bloodline, and that's why it's so good.
All right, well that's the end of my topic, I think. By the way, thank you. By the way, Mandy, I looked it up for you. And the closest round 1 to you is in Dayton.
That's still a pretty far drive. Like, that's a further drive than I would like to make for an arcade.
It says it's an hour from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I drive 30 minutes to go to mine, and it's friggin' worth it. So I don't know. If you're ever in Dayton, go to round 1. Because it is
Mandy's like,
awesome.
I can flip the table in my own house. Why do I need to drive so many hours to do that?
Fair enough. But then you destroy your living room.
True.
I mean, everything becomes like slow motion and everyone screams.
How far is the closest IKEA to you? I guess you have to weigh the drive times.
You know, there's one time when I think it was Walmart. I can't remember. Somebody was selling like very affordable arcade systems, and I was like, I just want to go and just buy all of them and just build my own arcade somewhere.
All right. Well, we definitely have time for at least one more topic. So, you know, I think...
We should go with Mason because mine was very last minute because I'm going to be honest, anime has been so far from my mind this week. That's why I'm all over the place and kind of a mess. So
okay. Well, Mason, take it away, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess we have in 2 weeks our What Have You Been Watching segment where each of us kind of review the shows that we've been watching outside the podcast, outside of reviews and impressions and all that.
And I'm a dead horse and you guys are like shining coated stallions with your
all good.
With your grain and your, you know, and your fresh horseshoes.
There you go. But I thought it'd be interesting, and even for like when you're, I guess, watching anime for the podcast, for reviews, like, how do you guys structure your anime watching habits? Are you watching a lot of shows at once and you like jump from one to the next? Do you find a show you like and just clamp onto that and wait till that's finished before you go to the next thing? Do you watch it, you know, like at the gym? Do you watch it like in different locations depending on the show? And kind of, do you think there's any difference that when you're watching one show, do the other shows you're watching at the same time kind of impact your enjoyment of the other shows you're watching? I just figured it'd be fun to talk about.
Yes.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like I pretty much watch anime as I'm watching them for the podcast, right? So, and if I'm doing impressions, I watch them all in chunks. So I feel like it's pretty rare for me to like flip back and forth between shows. So I'd say usually I'm only watching one show at a time, unless there's something like my girlfriend and I will watch Inuyasha, and it's like that show's just so freaking long that it's almost like a show you watch for 2 years, and then it's like, oh well, you know, maybe a couple nights a month you sit down, you eat dinner or something, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, let's just put Inuyasha on, and then you eventually get through it after like, you know, after 17,000 years because it's so long. But you know, I'm usually like at the gym on the treadmill or something, or you know, or I'm like on a lunch break, just trying to find nooks and crannies of time to cram in anime here and there.
Episode here or there.
Yeah, but I rarely watch more than one thing at once, and it's usually and I'm usually watching things for the podcast, so that's how it usually goes.
Yeah.
See, I watch a lot of anime, like outside of just our seasonal stuff. I watch a lot. Like, last week I watched all my seasonal shows, which were like, I think I'm watching 8 shows or 7 or 8. I can't remember. But I also finished all of Slayer season 2. I got halfway through Genshiken, and I watched 2 movies. So I'm watching a lot of stuff outside of just the weekly stuff. And I mostly watch stuff as I am multitasking, which is why I'm super into dubs at the moment.
Oh my god,
it makes it so much easier for me. Because a lot of people are like, oh, Mandy watches so much anime, she reads manga, she plays games, she must have so much free time. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Couldn't be further from the truth, because outside of work, I only get like 4 free hours to like do all of my shit. I gotta I have pets to take care of, myself to take care of, food, medicine that I gotta do which is not just swallowing a pill. It's pretty involved, but just do stuff around I have to try to get some exercise in. So honestly, I don't really have that much time out of work. So I spend most of my time watching anime multitasking, which is either whether like I'm exercising or when I'm doing my medication or even while I work. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I promise it's very doable with my job. But it is a lot more helpful when I can listen to dubs. But I'm a really fast reader too, so sometimes subs are just perfectly fine. It depends on the show. There are some shows that are I do have to pause, unfortunately, because it's very dialogue heavy and I can't just constantly stare at it. So some shows takes me a little bit longer to get through. But that's mostly when I watch them. But I do run into the issue where certain shows, like dramas that have a lot of characters, or slow shows where I have to watch them like all at once or I will forget everything. So I don't really show hop like a lot of people. I usually have my seasonals, watch those, and then whatever else I have that has already been, fully released, I watch the entire thing. Don't watch anything else until I finish that show. Because otherwise,
stick with one show in the background while your seasonal's there, and until you complete it, then you move on to the next one. Okay.
And now I'm getting into the habit of seasonals that are either for the podcast or ones that are just like a little bit more complex and not just some kind of silly comedy, where if I run the risk of forgetting details between weeks, I'm putting them on hold till like we come up to the review. Otherwise I'll forget everything. So there are certain shows like that where I'm putting on hold now. Like a lot of people are watching Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'm gonna save that till we get to the review, because
especially if it's 24 episodes and you'll forget so much of the beginning in 8 years when we review it.
Yeah, I'll remember like the last couple episodes and forget everything else from the beginning, which is really bad. So I've been saving those for the weeks of the review. But like for things that I watch for myself, though, just because I want to, I just finish them all in one go.
Yeah, like I was gonna ask about that. If you ever like mix stuff up.
But I know there's a lot of people who have like on their watch list like 80 different shows, and I'm like, how do you keep track?
They're lying to themselves. Like
they have to be.
I stress out if I have like 5 shows on my like watching list. Like that is like way too many. And for me, I'll go quick. I usually have like one quote unquote long show for me that I'll just like watch in the background of everything else. Kind of like what Mitt said, where he watches like Inuyasha like one a day and it just takes forever to finish. So like,
oh my god, yeah.
For me, these are shows like Beast Player Aaron from last time, or Gallery Fake from this time, where it's like 50 episode shows where they're kind of slow, they're not like intense, they don't have tons of cliffhangers, and you kind of just watch one and slowly like plod through it in the background of watching, for me, a couple different shows that I kind of have in rotation between like a rom-com, an action show, or like something else to kind of just break up the mold with what I'm feeling. But the point I guess I wanted to get to was I definitely find that if I'm enjoying one show a lot, I tend to like all the other shows that I'm watching kind of in the same time. And I don't know really why that is, but I guess I just feel like if I'm really enjoying a show, I'm just like, wow, anime, I'm really feeling it. And that kind of bleeds over into the other shows. And I find like I rate shows collectively higher if I'm watching one really good one, or if I'm in a funk, I'm like, oh, this batch of shows isn't really doing it for me. And I think that's an interesting way of, can't really ever separate art from how you are doing in life, or, you know, the shows that surround it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that happened. Like, it definitely impacts my enjoyment, especially if if a show is very slow. There was one recently that I dropped because it was just moving too slow for me, and the other shows that I was watching at the time, I was far more excited for, and then I ended up just putting it aside because I was like, I'm never gonna finish this.
Yeah.
And just, if I'm not excited to go back to it, then there's a much higher chance of me just dropping it straight up.
And I don't think you or I, or even Mitz, have any reservations about dropping shows.
No, no, I don't.
We're not one of those, oh, you got to finish everything you start.
No, for sure.
There's too much good stuff out there to waste.
Like, if I haven't finished it, then I'm not gonna like campaign that it's bad or something to people. No. Like, because of course I didn't finish it, but this is my time, and my time is, you know, what I spend my time to watch is like important to me. So I don't let anyone pressure me into finishing shows.
I mean, except you, chat. Except you, who can vote on our final thing of impressions.
Well, yeah, for sure. Reviews are different.
This was just a campaign to make you feel, to double think about maybe trolling us, but we'll get to that later.
I get that they can't multitask, but yeah. I am crazy. Like, I have to constantly multitask. If I'm not doing two things at once, and I feel like I'm not doing anything.
I guess my thing is that, like, there's like 50 lifetimes of content out there, and if you're not focusing on ones that you truly enjoy, like, what are you doing exactly? It's like, and I feel that way sometimes when I'm like when I'm like hunting for trophies or something in a game, and the last few of them are like really grindy. I'm like, you're a sick friggin' person. Like, you need some therapy, because in the time it takes you to like grind out these last 4 trophies, you could play a whole another game. You know, there are those cases that popped up, and so like it makes total sense to me to just drop something that you're not enjoying, because you only have so much time. But there is always going to be more games in anime than you can consume, always. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's about prioritizing your anime, and just like anything else in your life. So you need to be careful with that.
Yeah, I mean, in my personal opinion, I mean, anime is supposed to be entertainment, right? If you're not entertained, then there's no reason to watch it.
Are you not entertained?
Don't let people pressure you into watching something that you don't like.
Oh, I gave the thumbs down. Mason gives thumbs up. Oh. No, it has to be like this, where you start going up and then you go down. Mm.
Yeah. Ooh,
it's so good. Oh shit.
I love it.
In the news break, I'm gonna talk about an anime that's about like a gladiator from Rome, and it sounds pretty freaking cool. So,
well, let's move on over to that then. But before we do, we'll hit you with our weekly trivia question, which you have until the end of the news break to answer. Sherlock Holmes decided that he wanted to be in as many anime as Nobunaga. How many anime can you name that are themed after or contain Sherlock Holmes in the title? We'll give you a bunch of answers in just a bit. Stay tuned.
Mitsugi is here, and I'm bringing you your anime news break, leading us off with some new anime announcements. An anime adaptation of Reiko Hinata's Hikari no O novel was announced recently. It's going to be done by studio Signal MD, who worked on Netju no Susume and Hirune Hime. So, the synopsis: fantasy story Hikaru no O takes place in the aftermath of humanity's last war. The world is enveloped in a black forest, and people have become infected with a pathogen that causes them to burst into flame in the presence of natural fire. And the only safe source of fire can be obtained by hunting black beasts, flame spirits, which reside deep in the forest. So sounds like a pretty cool story. It revolves around a village-raised girl and a student in the capital, and they change the fate of the world, apparently. So if you are interested in fantasy stories with grandiose plot lines, look out for Hikari no O coming out sometime pretty soon here. Next up, some interesting news. Yoko Kanno has signed on to compose the upcoming music for a Takarazuka review season. So Yoko Kanno, famous for the music of Cowboy Bebop, working on Space Dandy, Wolf's Rain, Ghost in the Shell, etc. Super well-known composer, is going to be working on the upcoming season Silk Road Tozoku no Hoseki, or Silk Road Thieves and Jewels, which is going to be a Takarazuka troupe performance coming up here in January through April, and it's going to be two actresses' last performances before their grand finale of retirement, that being Nozomi Futa and Maya Kiho. So if you're a fan of Takarazuka Review or Yoko Kanno, you might want to check out the music from that coming up here sometime early in Q1. Next up, Nana Mizuki, famous songstress, I guess, and voice actress of lots of anime music and roles, has announced that she is pregnant and is going to be having a baby pretty soon. She's in her second trimester, and she got married back on July 7th, which is when she announced that she had gotten married to a person in the music industry. So if you're a fan of Nana Mizuki, as I am, I wish her the best, and pretty interesting to see developments like this in the lives of particularly prominent members of the anime industry. And rounding us out this time, another new anime announcement, Sestov's The Roman Fighter, very difficult title to pronounce. Fuji TV Anime's lineup has announced that it's going to be coming out on the Plus Ultra programming block in April 2021, adapting Shizuya Wazarai's Kento Anko Den Sevis, or Cestus, The Legend of Boxing in the Dark Ages, of which the story is about a young slave fighting for his freedom as a bare-knuckle gladiator, studying under the legendary gladiator who fought and drawed with the head of the imperial guards in the Roman era. So definitely a more interesting sort of plot line here, different from most. Studio Bandai Namco Pictures is going to be working on this, and the chief director Toshifumi Kawase of Shion no O and Tenjo Tenge are going to be working on it. So if you're a fan of action shows that are period pieces, look out for Cestus the Roman Fighter coming out April 2021. This is Mitsuki, and this was your anime news break, and now time to get back to the podcast. Hey addicts, I guess you have probably heard by now, but we have decided that at the end of August, we will be ending our promotional arrangement with JList.com. So what does this mean exactly? Well, we do still recommend you visit JList for all your anime shopping needs, but we will no longer be receiving financial support from JList to run the podcast the way that we have in past years. But don't panic yet. We're putting out a rallying cry to all the anime addicts across the globe to help support the podcast. We need you guys more than ever, and you can visit patreon.com or our website, aaapodcast.com/join, to offer support. Anything is appreciated, and you'll get some pretty sweet content as a reward. Don't forget those hobby addicts and hentai episodes. So again, help us help make your anime addiction worse over at Patreon or aaapodcast.com/join. We really appreciate your help. Like EPO, we're never down and out. It's time for one more Gazelle Punch. Together, let's make that anime addiction worse for years and years to come.
Hi, my name is Sonny Strait, voice of Krillin from Dragon Ball Z, and I'm an anime addict. Kamehameha, bitches!
Welcome back to the podcast. We left you with a Sherlock Holmes themed trivia question. He himself decided that he wanted to be in as many anime as Nobunaga. How many anime can you name that are themed after or contain Holmes in the title? Get this. They give you 1 point for each one you can get. There's Moriarty the Patriot, which we're going to do an impression on. Opera Detective Milky Holmes, which is not a hentai, even though it kind of sounds like one. Kabukicho Case Files, Lupin versus Holmes, Sherlock Hound. There's a Detective Conan movie that's themed after Sherlock Holmes and probably at large about Sherlock Holmes. The Empire of Corpses, Holmes of Kyoto, Code Realized, Beautiful Bones, etc. So if you got any of those, then you know a lot about Sherlock Holmes and anime. So I imagine a lot of these are probably not that good. A lot like the Nobunaga anime just never seemed to be good. Poor Nobunaga. He and Holmes are rolling over. They roll over in their grave every time. Every time a new anime comes out, like, oh God, no, my legacy. Not one more. No, I can't take any more.
I don't think Sherlock Holmes was a real person.
Well, if he was, well, then the author of Sherlock Holmes is rolling over in his grave. All right.
Mason, you're muted, by the way.
And he's going to need to be unmuted because he's got a segment coming up called Unexplored Pictures. So hopefully we can restore Mason to life here. Are you live, Mason? He's not alive. Nope. Nope. And he disconnected. Interesting.
Testing. Am I alive?
Yeah.
Yay. I did not have anything muted, I promise.
All right. Mason, are you ready for your segment, Unexplored Pictures?
I am.
Going to share some cool movies with you. Here we go.
Get your popcorn ready. It's time for Unexplored Pictures with Mason.
Welcome back, and we are done with spooky movies. So this is just nice family-friendly films for you to watch. So this film is called Big Fish and Begonia, or as it's called in Chinese, Dayu Hai Tang. It's 105 minutes long. It came out in 2016, and it is free to watch on YouTube legally. So very easy to get into. So I actually talked about it last week very briefly when we talked about the upcoming Chinese animation, Heaven Official's Blessing, which I watched the first 2 episodes on Funimation, and they're actually pretty good. So check it out. But wanted to talk about this because it is also another Chinese animation, and this is not about comparing the Chinese donghua to the Japanese anime. It's good animated content. People give it a chance, and that's what this is all about. So the plot of this movie is that a girl from a mystical realm, which kind of lies beneath our own Earth, they kind of manage the souls and the spirits of the departed. So in a coming-of-age ritual, she gets to temporarily go to the human world and kind of observe us. And essentially, while she's there, she kind of accidentally results in the death of a fisherman. And when she comes back to the spirit realm, she's kind of like struck with guilt and grief over what she did. So she pleads with the overseer to revive the fisherman at the cost of half of her remaining life. And the overseer is like, yes, I can bring him back to life, but he's going to have to stay in the spirit realm in the form of like a fish or a dolphin until he is strong enough, until you raise him to be big enough to kind of swim back to Earth and kind of be revived. So it is the story of her kind of raising this fish to journey back to become a human. And this film is kind of a blending of a ton of Chinese classical folk tales, most of which I did not get to the references of because my knowledge of Chinese myths is actually a little lackluster. And that's kind of the biggest obstacle with this movie, is because there's a little bit lost in translation. Things kind of feel flat because I don't have that background. It's kind of like watching Ready Player One. If you have never really played a video game, like, you can follow the story, but there's so many references and call-outs that without that knowledge, it kind of feels like it's lacking something. And beyond that, the characters are a little simple. Some of the events are a bit rushed, but it does wrap up nicely enough. So if the story is just kind of meh, why should you bother watching this film?
Tell me.
Well, It is done by Chinese studios B&T and Korean studio called Studio Mir, which if you have watched Legend of Korra, The Boondocks, or the Voltron show on Netflix, is an amazing studio. And the art in this movie is phenomenal. It's not so like hyper detailed like a Ghibli movie, but it has this dreamy, fluid manner, and it is certainly Ghibli inspired, particularly Spirited Away's, both in the design of the characters, the execution of a lot of things. And it just has these really well balanced compositions and this blending of traditional and CG work that has this rich, vivid, and just an enchanting splendor to it. And it is definitely a proof that the Chinese industry has a lot of talent, and it's a lot easier to get into than some of the other films like Da Hufa or Have a Nice Day, which are a little more avant-garde. So this is definitely a family-friendly movie, and if you need something to scratch that Spirited Away or Ponyo itch, I would recommend Big Fish and Begonia as a nice visual adventure.
A lot of the visuals I see from it look pretty cool.
It looks fantastic, and not so much, like I said, with like super refined stuff, but it's very fluid, and a lot of the quote-unquote camera work of how things are set and framed, it's very symmetrical and very pleasing to look at. So it's not going to give you that deep, like meaty, like plot to chew into, but nonetheless, it's a pretty solid movie, and it's very easy to, perfect for multitasking.
Is there a dub?
I do not believe so.
Is it doing the dishes worthy?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not as hard or obtuse to follow like some, like when you start maybe like Modao Zushi, where getting all the names like corrected and untangled in your brain can kind of be a bit of work if you're not used to their naming system, but it's pretty easy to follow. Mm-hmm. So just give it a shot.
If you can do the dishes while you're reading dubs or reading subtitles, then you have amazing eye-hand coordination. Very great dish doing awareness. That's a skill. A skill that I don't have. All right, Mason. Well, thank you very much for as always. So hopefully people will watch some of these movies that you recommend. Big Fish and Begonia.
Yeah,
it's free on YouTube. For God's sake.
YouTube movies. They have a ton of movies there, and just watch it.
Just go watch it.
Watch
just do it.
Just freaking go watch it, people. All right. Are we ready to do some mailbags?
Yep.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag.
So if you'd like to leave us a mailbag, you can go to aaapodcast.com, and there's a mailbag button there. Click it, and you can ask us any questions that you would like. This one is from Max Mackin, and they say, "Hello, my fellow M's. I was thinking about art and animation and how it can vary in importance dependent on the genre. In what genre do you think art and animation is the most crucial for enjoyment, and which one can best get by on other qualities, such as, for example, writing? And if you want, do the same for story and writing. Have a good one. Love you all." Yeah, I think we all kind of basically said the same thing. I was thinking that like the genres that greatly benefit from art and animation the most are, of course, like action. And I think any genre could benefit from good art and animation, of course. But I think the ones that get the most out of it are action shows, whether it's like sports or, fighting shows. They obviously stand out more if you have that fluid movement, and it helps to enhance the actions that are being performed, getting you excited. But also, I think a lot of dramas as well can be very hit or miss depending on the art, like the animation, the directing, the storyboarding. And I think excellent art and animation in those and dramas can help better communicate a character's thoughts or turmoils that they're going through, and help drag out more of those emotions out of you. Because I think, like, for example, take Violet Evergarden, for example. Like, a lot of the really dramatic parts of that, do you think they would have hit quite as well if the art and animation didn't help like communicate the like the kind of scene that they're trying to show you, or like, do you think you would be as emotional if, say, they had I was trying to think of a really like a studio that usually has really subpar art and animation.
Toei.
But yeah, for example, like, do you think that it would be as like you would have felt as strongly as you did if the art and animation weren't up to KyoAni's standards?
Unfortunately, I feel like bad animation and bad art usually is a distraction from whatever else is happening, and so you're not really hitting the nail directly on the head if people were distracted while watching it.
Yeah, so I think action and dramas benefit the most from it, and I think the ones that can usually get away with a lower standard of art and animation are probably comedies, because even poor animation or art sometimes in comedies can make it funnier. Yeah. So comedies, or even romantic comedies as well. Like, yeah, it's great if they have fantastic art and animation, but I think in those genres, the voice acting is far more important than anything else. And of course, the comedic timing.
Yeah, I mean, my answer is largely the same. I think that fluid movement is always going to be great, but most effectively utilized when it's needed. If you're standing around and talking to get the message of the show across, you don't really need to have a lot of animation. Like and that's fine. Like there's been great shows like Sweetness and Lightning, that are don't need as much animation as something like God of High School or whatever. And if God of High School doesn't have great animation, and honestly I haven't seen it yet, but if it doesn't, it's going to suffer for it, because we're trying to watch the movements of the combat as the crux of the show. And if you can't, and if the animation's not right on the mark, it's almost like being in a drama and not delivering your lines properly. So, I agree with that completely. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why in some shows where there's very specific movements required, like when you're watching people play piano, or when you're watching, or like in Gura Zeni, there was an awful lot of people pitching baseballs. They'll rotoscope some of that because they want to have the movements be accurate, and they need to things need to look appropriate. Like they don't want it to look awkward. So, Mason, do you have anything to add? Because I feel like
not really. Not really. Animation or action shows, they are usually not communicating much else in those scenes besides the action, so they're kind of, it's crucial that the thing that is shown sounds good and looks good. Whereas, like Mandy said, dramas and comedies can be a little bit abated and not need to be bolstered because they have sound or characters talking and communicating in that way. But yeah, definitely every show that has good animation is bolstered by it and shouldn't be slept on. So not too much more to add.
And when you've got a show like Violet Evergarden, when it's not as I think it's always important, but when it's not as important, when it's not the main focus of the show as it is in like a sports or an action series, it's just icing on the cake, And I think in KyoAni's case, it's almost like their trademark. It's their branding. It's what makes their anime. It's one of the things that makes their anime differentiated from everybody else. And when you watch KyoAni or when you watch Ghibli, you expect a certain level of quality, and that's just what they're doing. And so, there's maybe Violet Evergarden didn't need to have eyeball melting animation, but it does. And people remember it for that just as much as they do for its, the subject matter of the show. So,
and to be fair, I was going to say, when I think of like Violet Evergarden, yes, you get super highly stylized and gorgeous shots, like when she's jumping across the water. Yes, it looks amazing, but it's not even so much that. It's the subtle nuances that they put on the characters' faces. Like I think Violet Evergarden or Rakugo Shinju, like they are telling a story, for example, but characters are shifting if they're uncomfortable. They're having slight facial tweaks or body movements where it's just like it adds such a layer of life and like intimacy to that character's thought process that it's not animation so much in the like Sakuga side, but they can still communicate a lot through that methodology. So it's all kinds of animation is crucial.
That's what I was going to add on to it is like when we were talking about Violet Evergarden specifically, I was going to mention also like when she jumped across the lake, that was so fantastic and so beautiful, and that stands out and gets people always recall that moment. But I think dramas specifically benefit a lot from facial expressions. If you have kind of facial expressions on your characters that can't really be interpreted well, then maybe a lot of your scenes are probably not going to hit the same as a show that has really fantastic expressions on your characters, and you want to sympathize with the characters as well. So I don't know. That's a good question, though. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, fellow M.
Thank you, as always, guys. And if you want to write a mailbag, you can go to our website, aaapodcast.com, and leave us a mailbag via the mailbag button on the top. And there you can make topic requests. You can do anime Shark Tanks. You can request retro reviews. There's just all kinds of stuff in there. So go check it out. You might find something really interesting for you to contribute to the show, because after all, I like to think that this show is like 50% listener driven, in the content that we do. So it's a show.
We're lazy. I'm just kidding.
It's a show by the people for the people. Damn it.
So now we're ready for our round 4 of impressions.
Today, we're going to be doing impressions.
Impression time, believe it!
So the shows that we have passed so far are Jujutsu Kaisen, Akudama Drive, Dragon Quest, and Our Last Crusade, or The Rise of a New World. So we have one more show that we are going to pass, and then you guys will get to pick 3 shows out of our listener poll, where usually you only get to pick 1. We changed that to 3, so now we are able to get a better selection of the most popular shows instead of like accidentally passing something that no one's watching or passing something that we feel like we have to pass. So who wants to go first? I only have 1 this time, so I figured I'd go in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have up to 2 more passes. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a pass and Mandy has a pass.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I didn't know Mason did. I'm sorry.
And when we did have a rule where you can use a pass on someone else's show. So there's always that. Just to add some suspense. But as Mandy already said, we want this show to be. We want to make sure we're covering all the things you want us to do. So we will let you be picking 3 shows for the listener choice, and we'll have more on that later. But I'll start it off here with this Moriarty show. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's another one of these like Sherlock Holmes themed anime, and I don't know if it's apparent or not at this point, but I really don't care about Sherlock Holmes. I'm super disenfranchised with it. I've seen a ton of stuff with Sherlock Holmes. It's never really up my alley, and a lot of times I don't like shows that are about like mysteries, because they're not interesting a lot of times. I think it's too dependent on the quality of the writing. Like if you have a mystery show that's just not that smart, like it's just not that interesting to watch. And so I generally struggle with these sorts of shows. And this is just another one of those spins on, Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. So by putting the antagonist in the spotlight. So, and because it's about William Moriarty, who's like the second son of the Moriarty household, and he's in the light, he's like a young professor of mathematics or whatever. And as we know from other Sherlock Holmes shows, he's super intelligent and is always giving Sherlock Holmes trouble. But like in behind the scenes, there's like sort of like a civil sort of uprising type of thing going on, because this is set after in like the 19th century, and the society is broken very heavily into different levels of like classes, I guess. Like there's like the nobles, and then there's like people that don't have any money and they're poor or whatever. And so there's this like behind the scenes, Moriarty is like the head of a group that's trying to like shape the new world, so to speak. And at the beginning of this series, they're kind of putting you in the feeling of that sort of world where, there are people that are struggling and they're like in the dirt and, pulling carts and stuff like that. And then there's super rich people living in like their mansions, and Moriarty, I guess, he's sort of doing like a side job he's investigating like crimes on the side. People can come to him as like a consultant. And so that's kind of like where the mystery sort of crime solving aspect of the show comes in, where, you know, because he is willing to take on jobs and solve crimes and stuff like that. So that's largely like what happens in the first 2 episodes. It's just a matter of if you're a person that enjoys sort of the slow moving, sort of gradually unpeeling of the onion, little 1-shot, 2-shot episode, little crime mysteries. And as I said, I haven't watched all that much of this, you know, because this is pretty early in the season still. I'm not really sure where they're gonna go with the sort of self-described theme of reshaping the new world, because I feel like most of the first third of the show was more centered around Moriarty's, like, I don't know if it's like a side job, but his willingness to solve crimes for people. But I just didn't find this very interesting. Like, I just don't. I think this one was like really far down my list, and it should have been, because I'm not really all that. Let me see where it was on my list here, if I can even find it. I'm just not that interested in Sherlock Holmes, and unless the crimes and stuff are really engaging and really executed well, it never really strikes a chord with me. And I think this is probably like the 4th or 5th time that Sherlock Holmes has really failed to grab me. And it's done by Production IG. Like, I think it looks fine. Production IG is a good studio, and as we said, this is one of those shows, referring back to the past Mailbag, where you don't really need to have like blistering animation to do this, because it's mostly them like walking around, witnessing events, talking, interrogating, stuff like that. But if you like the kind of show, like, you may enjoy Moriarty. I would say that the reviews online for it are slightly above average, probably. I think it's entirely dependent on whether or not the subject matter is in your interest, is something that interests you. I wouldn't call this show like terrible or anything. It's streaming on Funimation, so if you have Funimation, you'll be able to watch it. I'm not aware of any dubbing that's come out for it yet, but I'm just not going to lock in what is the translation? The Moriarty the Patriot, because it's just not something that interests me. But as I said, I think there are people that might like it, so I will pass on Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty.
I forgot this came out. I'm gonna watch this week. I fucking love Sherlock.
Enjoyed it. It's not a mystery show yet.
Oh.
This is kind of like, at least what I've seen, it's kind of episode 1's Moriarty solving a mystery, but later on it becomes kind of Moriarty as a kid, kind of his like prequel, like how he kind of came into power, kind of getting into the Moriarty household and kind of like sabotaging stuff. And I think the Patriot point, as Mitz talked about, is him kind of revolting against the upper class system to let, the non-nobles have a place in society. And I've really enjoyed it. And it is Production IG, who did the Sherlock show, Kabukicho, from like a couple seasons ago. So they're definitely on the Sherlock kick, but no Sherlock yet, not a ton of mysteries. No, if you come in kind of with medium expectations, I've mostly enjoyed it despite the edginess here and there.
Yeah, there was no Sherlock in it. It's all about Moriarty. I'm also worried that they're just trying to do too much. Like, I don't know how, unless this is going to be a 24 episode show, which it supposedly is 12 episodes. It seems like an awful lot to do. Yeah, you have the backstory, then you have the side crimes, and then you have the reshaping society. It just seems like a lot for 12 episodes, and that honestly concerns me. I think they're gonna, unless it gets another season, I think they're just gonna try to do too much. But yeah, Mandy, I think this is probably more of a show for you than for me, to be honest.
I could be wrong. I think a second season was confirmed.
I'll look into that while you check.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I've always loved Sherlock Holmes stories, and I always thought Moriarty was a very compelling character, so I'm kind of interested. But I don't think it's based on anything Arthur Conan Doyle has written, right?
No, I think this is just a reimagining as Moriarty as a sympathetic figure. Maybe it'll end season 1 with Sherlock arriving onto the scene. He's like, a worthy rival at last, kind of thing. But
season 2 is coming out in the spring.
There you go.
I'm into it. I'm gonna watch it this week.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Tomorrow. Maybe tonight.
Right now.
Right now.
Right this minute. Bye.
I can go on to my first impression, which was my number 2 pick of the season, Kamisama ni Natta Hi, or The Day I Became a God. This is Studio PA Works, and it is streaming on Funimation and Hulu. And it tells the story of a guy in high school named Yota, who's kind of preparing for his university entrance exams, which are a big deal in Japan. And he's shooting some hoops with his friend, just kind of relaxing one day, when a young girl who calls herself Odin suddenly appears and says that she is the god of omniscience. And Yota's like, okay, you small child, like, you are dressed very strangely. What are you doing? Let's get you home. And she's like, gods don't have homes, or whatever. And he eventually finds out her name is like Hina or whatever. And he's like, okay, let's get you home. I need to get back to studying. And she's like, well, it's not even worth studying because the world will end in 30 days. And Yota's like, okay, you strange child. What are you doing? And essentially, over the course of the first couple episodes, we start seeing some realizations that Hina actually might have some crazy godlike predictive abilities. And we start to maybe believe that her powers are real. And it's kind of the story of those two characters living out these last 30 days of the world, supposedly. So this is the show that I was the most anticipating from this season. I think PA Works was due for another success. The show visually looks absolutely incredible. It has this really bright color palette, as well as sharp designs, these well-executed visual touches, these bombastic reaction faces, and just a lot of little directing flourishes that I thought added to the fluid animation. It has a great blend and composition of like eye-catching moments and gags without seeming like too try-hard. It has two great characters, which kind of are the core of the show, and their dynamic is amazing. You have Odin, and you have the sun god, Yota. And really, your mileage on this show, your ability to digest cuteness, your quietude, will matter what you think of the show. You will either watch the show and think this is a sugary, moe-infested, hyper-energetic, shrill, and annoying show. If you are not vibing with the show after episode 1, I'd say it's just not for you and drop it. If you are unfortunately like me, on the other hand, you will think that it is sharp and well written, it's sassy, it's funny, it's mysterious. It has all these references that don't overstay their welcome, and I thought a lot of the gags landed. Whereas, you know, I talked about Taiso Zamurai's trying to inject these comedy moments, and it just didn't feel right and felt stilted and awkward. I thought a lot of these felt natural, and I really vibed with it. The biggest test of what's to come, obviously, is the rest of the show, because this is a original work by Jun Madea, which, if you've seen his other works, which he's known for, Angel Beats and Charlotte, he is notorious for having great starts, great initial concepts that botch the ending. He usually comes out with like 13 episode shows that probably need 17 episodes to actually tell the story. And we'll see if he's learned his lesson in this one.
That ending to Charlotte was brutal. Oh man.
So yeah, we'll see. So I'm hoping that he's improved and realizes, hey, I only have one core to tell a story. I only have 30 days to tell a story. Let's do it right. This show certainly will get melodramatic, but here's to hoping that a miracle pays off. I will absolutely be locking this show down. I've been enjoying it more than anything else this season, and hopefully you guys are charmed by it as well.
Anything else? This is your number 1 show of the season?
So far, it's so cute, and I just the way the characters just converse with one another, I just find engaging. Just them talking, I enjoy. It's kind of not as top tier, but very similar to Eizouken, where just the back and forth between the characters just make me smile.
Alrighty, well, mine is Adachi to Shimamura. This one is being adapted by Tezuka Productions. You can watch it on Funimation. And it is an adaptation of a Yuri light novel series. And it might have a manga. I'm not positive about that, though. But Adachi to Shimamura is a high school, very, very slow burn romance between these two girls who are also part of a ping pong club. Although we don't really get to see much ping pong after episode 1. So far, I've only seen 3 episodes, though, just as a warning. I think there's 5 out so far, but I've only seen the first 3. So Adachi to Shimamura, honestly, it's so pretty. I think the art is really great. It has a really great, like, kind of warm and cool palette. I don't know, like, it has the visuals always look so dreamy, and there's some really great storyboarding in there as well. I think both Adachi and Shimamura are just really great characters. They have such a great chemistry together. But at the beginning of the show, they are friends, but you can tell that there's something more going on between them, and that Adachi specifically is just so in love with Shimamura and kind of has a lot of confusion over it. And Shimamura, I'm not sure if she knows that Adachi feels about her the same way, but you can also see that she knows that there's a little bit more going on between them than just a friendship. But I think they have wonderful chemistry together. They have some really cute conversations. And there's some, I mean, I don't know, they're just so great to watch. But the problem that I did have with the show so far is that the first episode, there's some very unfortunate fan service. There's like a very like out of their boob grab scene, and I was like, this doesn't fit this at all. It's like a really like sweet, very peaceful, like slow burn romance, and then they're like, let's just grab characters' boobs. I was like, that's weird. Hasn't happened again, thankfully. But and there's also this little astronaut girl that follows them around. It's like this little girl who's wearing like an astronaut outfit, and she says that she's an alien from the future, and I don't know what part she's going to play in this. I'm going to assume that there's some kind of metaphor for her. I'm not sure, but so far she's a complete mystery. She did take her helmet off in episode 3, and she has like this really pretty blue hair. I thought her design is really cute.
How else you gonna eat those donuts? Yeah.
Loves donuts also. Yeah, they gave her a donut, and she's like, well, I can't eat it through my helmet, so I guess I gotta take it off. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because, like, historically, slow burn romances just aren't for me. There are some that I've really struggled with, but sometimes there are ones that do hit. And I'm never really sure what it does, or what determines that. Like, I did not do well with Just Because. I didn't do well with Seeing Yesterday for me. Like, they were just, I couldn't get into them. I think it really heavily depends on whether or not I like the main characters. And so far, I think these girls are just so lovely. And I wasn't really into episode 1 as much. It is very slow. But towards episode 3, I felt like we started to get a little bit more energy in them. And I started to slowly fall in love with them. So I don't know if that's going to remain throughout the rest of the series. I have no idea. I've only seen episode 3, up to episode 3. But they do have some very whimsical conversations. And I don't know, they're just really cute together. So, man, this was a really hard one for me, because I was like, I don't know, because of my history with slow burn romances, I was not sure if I was going to like want to stick with it for the whole 12 episodes, or if I wanted to just go back and pass Yashahime for a laugh. But I do think Yashahime has a really good chance of winning the listener poll.
Probably.
And I really loved episode 3. Like, I thought it was really charming. Episode 3 actually had some visuals that gave me a bit of a Shaft feel to it. Like, there is some really nice like visuals, symbolisms in there as well. And so, I don't know. I think because I think it has some really good production in there, I think I'm gonna pass this one for review. And
she did it.
I know, it was really funny because I was really struggling with
so
it.
Long.
I was struggling with it because just because of my history with slow burn romances in general. But I think this one has a lot of potential to be very charming, and I do love these girls. So this one has been more of a hit for me than a lot of the other ones.
All right, locking it in?
Yeah.
There you go. I need better drops for locking them in. Not satisfied.
You got another season to work on it.
Yeah. All right, so I'm back again. So Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Goal. So I'm a big fan of Higurashi. I watched all the Higurashi stuff back when it first came out, years and years ago, which is I don't even know how many years ago it's been at this point. Quite a lot. What, 10 years probably at least? Let's see. 2006. So, yeah, like 15 years. Holy shit, I'm old. And so I was kind of surprised when I see Higurashi come back up, because the story of Higurashi the first time around is absolutely not an anime that needs a sequel or was open-ended even at all. So, you know, like, oh my god, Higurashi's back. So I automatically assume it's just like a retelling. Like they're just going to reboot it because it's been forever and it was popular the first time. And so, not knowing really what to expect, I jump into Higurashi expecting more just like vicious violence, you know? But wondering how they were going to pull it off, because Higurashi, for people who haven't seen it, Higurashi is this anime that is just a mixture of peeling back the onion, like plot reveals and twists are part of the what drives Higurashi, and then the other part is just savage violence. I mean, just grotesque violence. You know, people getting their fingernails ripped off. It is what it is. Little kids committing suicide. Like, there's just all kinds of crazy shit in Higurashi. And but like, if you've seen Higurashi already and you know that stuff's coming, I don't really think there's much left for the viewer. Like, if you know the story, then okay, well, the plot twists are gone. And if you know all the crazy death scenes that are going to happen, well, you won't be shocked by that either. So, you know, I go into this kind of wondering. And honestly, I keep hearing like, oh, it's going to be like this blended retelling where they're going to like change the story, kind of like how people keep saying Final Fantasy VII's remake is going to be like different. Like they're going to change the story fundamentally of Final Fantasy VII, which I think is a horrible idea, but you know, do what you want. And so I watched the first 3 episodes of Higurashi, and it's, with the exception of one scene, and granted, it's been a long time since I've seen the original Higurashi, but I did watch the first several episodes many times because of anime clubs and stuff. It's largely note for note the same show. So there is a scene where, like, they kind of tell you that, I mean, I guess they kind of tell you, so it's not much of a spoiler, that, like, Rika, there's something going on with Rika, right? Like, the little purple-haired girl. And she has another character in the show named Hanyu that she talks to that normally wouldn't pop up until the 2nd season, I think. And she pops up like in episode 1 or 2. And then you're like, oh, well, they're changing stuff around, you know. But honestly, like, maybe 95% of the first 3 episodes is like largely the same, with like small nuances that only people that have watched Higurashi like a billion times and probably recently are going to remember. There's still the meaningless, dumb scenes of them playing like games at school, the festival scenes of like Rika, like, you know, doing the hoe movement of like ripping at people's insides or whatever the hell they do at the fucking Watanagashi festival. There's still the police officers still, Oishi is still like talking an awful lot to Keiichi about crimes and stuff. Reina's still suspicious of Keiichi because of like how he's been talking to the police. There's still the garbage dump scene where they're like hanging out at the garbage dump trying to find like the stupid Colonel Sanders statue. Like it's pretty much the same. So, and then episode 3 leaves off with, you know, Reina's like in Keiichi's house, and for those of you that have seen the original Higurashi, you know what's going to come next. But I honestly, like, as much as I like Higurashi, well, first of all, this season of Higurashi has a far worse score than the old season, which kind of thought was interesting because, you know, it's like a full point on Mao lower than it was before. And so I don't think people are jiving with it quite as well. And aside from it being even more moe than before, like, the characters are even more obnoxious than they were the first time around. And by that I mean just like they're just like these little girls with like super squeaky high-pitched voices, and like, I don't know, I just can't see myself watching Higurashi again. Like, I already know the story and I know they're going to change it, but, you know, honestly, I don't really want it changed. I think it was fine the first time, and I don't really understand why they're doing this again. The studio this time around is Studio Passion, whom, I mean, they've done a lot of stuff. but a lot of stuff that we probably think is questionable, like Citrus, High School DxD, Ishizoku Reviewers, Rail Wars. They've been around, but they've got a lot of questionable quality under their belt. I watched it on Funimation, I think, or Hulu maybe. So, I'm not going to lock in Higurashi. Like, I think this may get listener passed anyway. I'm not really sure exactly. I know people are very, people that are deep in the Higurashi lore are, very interested in how it's going to change, and I'm just not. Like, it's been too long. It's been 15 years. And, I don't need another Higurashi show in my life. So I'm not going to pass it, unless Mason's going to jump in here and save it. I don't really know. I doubt it, but that's about it.
He already passed a show.
Yeah, we're out of locks. We're out of passes.
We're out of locks. Okay.
Now we're just rolling out the red carpet to these shows' downfall.
Now let me be clear. Higurashi's not a bad show. It still isn't. It's just I don't care anymore. Like, I don't need to watch 10 more episodes to get to the point where the plot starts unfolding, because I already know the plot. And if you're gonna change it, that's fine. But I doubt it'll change all that much. Anyway, all right. That's it from me. Back to Mason.
Last show of the season. I'll do it quickly because you guys all know the outcome by now. It's not going to pass, but it is Dropout Idol Fruit Tart, or Ochikobore Fruit Tart. And speed round, essentially, a group of girls move into a dormitory, kind of with dreams of becoming an idol or actresses or some kind of role in the entertainment industry. They find out that the place that they just moved into is actually about to be demolished, and the manager of the dormitory is like, hey, if you guys all become idols together, we'll make enough money to repay and save your housing that you have no attachment to, whatever. So this is done by Studio Feel, which tends to have a lot of heart and charm and personality in their works. You have shows like Elko-chan, Tsukigakure, and Hinamatsuri, which just have kind of plain concepts, but just the characters infuse it with such a life that it's fun to watch. And I was kind of hoping that with this show, I was hoping with the promotional art for it to be really eye-catching and have a cool look at the behind the scenes of being an idol. And it really didn't have much. By the end of episode 1, they were already overusing jokes. It had a stiffness to it that kind of irked me. And a lot of the ideas are fine, but poorly executed. Like, there's a character who needs to be powered by strawberries to wake up. Fine, that's cute. But then you have moments where it's just like fan service and just wholly unnecessary shots of members going to school with their outfits. I don't know. The show felt like it was just trying to set these characters up to be merchandise instead of being worthwhile to watch. And I said earlier, if Sport Climbing Girls was like a budget version of how heavy are the dumbbells you lift, this show is just like a budget version of Zombieland Saga. So I don't think anyone's watching it, and I don't think anyone really should be. It's kind of just a fluff show that is not for audiences. So I will not be passing it. Woo! And that'll do it.
That was a quick dispatching.
We're trying out here.
All right. Well,
so the shows that we've passed officially in the podcast are Jujutsu Kaisen, Akudama Drive, Dragon Quest, Our Last Crusade, The Day I Became a God, and Adachi and Shimamura, which are the 6 locks that us hosts have given. But, Mitz?
Yeah, so I figure the listener poll will probably be up around the time this podcast goes up, if not soon after. And as we said before, we're trying to give you more say in what shows we cover. So we figure, there have been times in the past where we always have had a listener choice selection, but even with that, another show will slip through. Something like there have been plenty of times where a show never got covered because there was just too many shows, or something just didn't get impressed and it was like a sleeper hit or something. But so now we're gonna let you pick 3 shows in a listener choice poll. We'll still do our little 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place, but all 3 of those will make it. And in doing so, I'm gonna try to make it so that you all can do 3 selections, so you can vote for 3 different shows in the listener choice, and that way you have more say, and that will be our 7th, 8th, and 9th shows from the season that we'll cover. Just giving you more say in what we do. And we have a little fun thing in here, like pitch something to the listeners to pick. I don't really have anything that I feel all that strongly about, really. I think that if you want to hear us discuss variances that might exist between the new and old Higurashi shows, that might be a good choice for you, but only if you've seen the original. I don't really expect anybody to go back and watch 50 episodes of the old Higurashi show so that you can see like the small nuances between the two seasons. That just doesn't seem like a very good use of your time. So, but I would say that if you're like a fan of Higurashi and you really want to hear us discuss how these two shows are different, you know, you might want to do that. But otherwise, I'm sure there's plenty of exciting things elsewhere for you guys to pick from. So, Mandy and Mason, do you have any particular shows that you want to try to like implore the listeners, so to speak, to pick?
You should vote for Yashahime because you know Inuyasha's always been really silly, but I'm still having a lot of fun watching it, and I think the new characters are also really great. So no, it's not like a serious show. Yes, it has very ridiculous moments in it, but it's fun.
Anime's not supposed to be fun. It's serious.
It's some serious friggin' shit. Okay.
It's ridiculous, and I love it.
I wanted to bring up this show just because we didn't do an impression on it, but Tonikawa, Over the Moon for You, is a little far-fetched, but it's a very funny, sweet, like romance show, and the opening slaps. So I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot to discuss on like for us, our review kind of aspect, but I recommend if you want a nice little romance, don't sleep on it because it's a pretty fun little show.
All right. I think that's pretty much it, is it not?
That is it. We're at the end of our show. Thank you for sticking around, guys, who are watching us live. Again, you can find us on all of our social media accounts. I am at Mandy X Mandy on Twitter. What do you guys?
Pope Mitsugi. You can follow me on Twitter as well.
And you can follow me at Macy Pacey.
And you can also just follow AAA Podcast on Twitter to get updates on what we have going on. We have our Facebook group, AA Podcast. Again, go to Discord. That's where we have all of our clubs and stuff. What's going on in Anime Club?
Anime Club, we're going to be discussing Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions on November 18th at 10 p.m. EST. It's on pretty much every streaming site imaginable, so watch the show and join in so we can talk about it.
This Wednesday, November 11th, we will be discussing The Wallflower in our manga club, the first 2 volumes. So all you have to do is read that, come to our Discord manga club channel at 10 p.m. EST, and we'll have a very laid-back discussion. Also, Mason and I have been streaming Phasmophobia a lot on our Twitch channel, which is a lot of fun, so come watch us.
And we have a movie planned November 20th, so Friday night, come hang out with us.
Yeah, so thank you for joining and for all of your support. We love you, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.